as the shodan, with this mastered sense of self, and particularly if your partner can as well, then you can come together and you can co-create a beautiful relationship, and you can co-create amazing sexual encounters. Very different from that limited view of what sex is that we've had in our society for so long, and which those lower level white and coloured belts think of as sex. So let's just look at the history of it again, just to remind you that for so long we suppressed sex in the West. We didn't really have any idea of what it was. In particular, we suppressed female sexuality, and all the boys really knew of was masturbating their penis. So when the boy met girl, fell in love, got married, could have sex, essentially the boy was doing inside his partner what he'd always done on his own. So it was a very masturbatory approach to sex, 3 parts to it, got to be horny, lots of genital friction until he comes. Now these days, hopefully you're a bit more chivalrous around it, and hopefully she's had an orgasm along the way somehow as well. But generally, too many guys, they want that orgasm to be a very clear orgasm, very much like that male ejaculatory type peak orgasm, so that he knows he's done a good job, he can tick that box, successful sex, and then he can let himself go. It's a bit limited. And you can think of it as though it's rather like a 3-course meal, because it's got these clear steps to it. And it's not just a 3-course meal, it is a set 3-course meal. If you have entree, sure as hell you've got to go through to dessert, because you've got to have the whole lot. Now the problem with this, apart from the fact that it's pretty limited, it also means that if either party or both parties are not feeling like dessert just yet, they're not even going to start the meal. You're not going to have entree if you think you've got to have all of the rest. So too many people are thinking about the outcome of what sex is supposed to be, you know, the penis and vagina and all the jiggity jig, and so we'll say no to anything that might potentially lead there. And this is why you have, you know, if one partner's like, oh God, I don't think I'm in the mood, so I'm going to say no to everything. And I see this as often in the men as in the women, and I certainly see it a lot where both parties seem to have lost their mojo, and everyone's thinking about this stuff rather than bringing it back a bit and seeing where they're actually at. So rather than thinking like sex as a 3-course meal, I invite you to think of sex more like a picnic. So when you're at a picnic, everything is out in front of you, and you, if you want to, you can have dips, then you have your quiche, and then you have your pavlova. Well, that's what we have in Australia. We love our pavlova, but you can think of your apple pie or whatever it is happens to be in your culture. So basically entree, main course and dessert is all there available to you. Now if you want to, of course you can have entree, your dips, and then your main course, your quiche, and then your dessert, your pavlova, dips, quiche, pav. Of course you can go that way, but you don't have to. You can just have dips, yum yum, just loving the dips, and that's enough. You can go straight to the quiche, like, oh yeah, I'm really feeling like some of that, and then go back to the dips. If you're really like, whoa, I'm going to start with a bit of pavlova and then go back to the quiche, the dips. It doesn't matter. You can go dips, quiche, pav, quiche, quiche, dips, dips, quiche, dips, pav, pav, quiche. There's actually no rules around what you eat at a picnic. In fact, you don't even have to eat at all. You can just sit there, drink champagne, have a nice conversation, not eat anything, and you are still having a picnic. So the point here is you can eat whatever you like in any order, at any pace, in any quantity, and you're having a picnic. So hopefully you can see the analogy with sex and with lovemaking. And I actually prefer the term lovemaking to sex, partly because when we think about sex, we immediately go to penis and vagina type activity, or at least genital activity. And sex and lovemaking is actually much broader than that. The more you come into your black belt mastery, the more you'll start to understand that sex is more of an energy that permeates our lives. And when two people in a relationship can merge their sex and their love energy and share it with each other, then it just creates this deliciousness. So the whole of life becomes a sexual experience. It's like you're always at the picnic, so to speak, and you can just tap into into whatever you want whenever you want to. So it's very much about throwing out expectations. Let's just ditch them. Let's ditch them with all these myths that we need to ditch for you to become a sexual master. Ditch the need for there to be your key performance indicators. That you have to tick the box on this, you've got to tick the box on that, you've got to tick the box on that, and then you have a successful sexual encounter. And one of the key ones about that is that you have to get to the genital encounter, and you have to have these orgasms in the way that you think an orgasm should be. We're going to be talking about what is orgasm later on. But for now, just get rid of those. Two people coming into an encounter. Just as we saw in that story between Xanthi and Aries, it was just about what are we experiencing here? And there is very much a co-creation. Because if you're stuck in your sexual script, it's generally, one person doing something and the other there. It's already fixed. It's already there. There's no space for creativity. There's no space for difference. And it gets really boring. So often when I'm talking to my clients or retreat participants or whomever, and they're like, not really liking sex, it's generally because it's pretty boring. And it's worse for women, because women actually have a much more complex sexuality in general than men do. So even if this 3-course meal approach, this sort of masturbatory getting off approach is working for you as a man, chances are it's not working for her as a woman, because she's more complex. Or if you do have a female partner who is kind of ready and revved up and wanting to go all the time, and you're the one who's going, back off, darling, well then what is it that you want? You have to start to get clearer about this. We're going to look at this a lot in level 5 about what you want. But we did in the last one, this showdown. This is where we're really starting to look at, well, who am I? And what do I want? And then how am I going to engage? Shortly we're going to look at how you can really understand her and your partner. But for now, it's just like paying attention, getting rid of these expectations that it's got to be a certain way, freeing yourself up. In the next level, we're going to be looking at creativity and play and fun and so forth. What we're looking at here is more about how you come together, and that you're doing that with respect for who she is, where she's at, what she's wanting. Because one of the key differences between being at a picnic and making love is that, at a picnic you can actually do exactly what it is that you want. You don't want dips, you want to go straight to quiche, fine. Your partner wants dips, great, she can have dips while you're having your quiche. But if we're talking about sex and quality interactive sex, then you have to be paying attention to where your partner is at and what she wants as well. We'll be looking at communication shortly, but even before the communication, there has to be the mindfulness. There has to be you aware of where you're at and what's going on for you, and that ability to self-regulate that we were talking about, the ability to bring yourself down if you're getting too upregulated. And that upregulation can be that you're too aroused, you're too wanting, you're too needy, you're too excited, or you're too angry, or you're too frustrated. All those energies that are like, up here, you need to be able to modulate them and bring them down. This is probably the key thing about being a black belt in any art, but particularly in lovemaking. But also about to bring yourself up if you're just like, not in the zone. To be able to know yourself enough so that you can upregulate yourself as well. And there's a role for your partner in that too, and we'll be getting to that. For now, where am I at here? You notice with Xanthi and Aries, neither of them was like, I'm going to come in for the kill, or, if I have to. No, they were there. They were balanced in themselves, and that's how they could engage so well. Have a picnic. So, think about that. Think about your sexual script, your expectations around sex, your key performance indicators, what's the outcome, and see if you can just put those to the side and shift your thinking to this more open, engaged, present approach.